The docking clamp hissed like an annoyed cat as a Valari scout ship latched onto Base 6 of the Geritho 9 orbital station. Cash and Merrick, currently knee-deep in coolant sludge, looked up from his maintenance console and muttered, "Great. Another majestic war angel here to scowl at my wiring." He wiped his hands on a rag that had once been white, possibly during the Second Galactic era, and squinted through the observation port. The ship was sleek, armored in dull chrome with violet underscales, a design that whispered don't touch unless you enjoy vaporization. Typical Valari aesthetic. Minimalist murder. He wasn't supposed to be involved. Security protocol, foresee, dictated all Valari maintenance be handled by certified Xenomechs. But the station's designated Xenomech had gotten into an argument with a plasma torch and lost. So here he was, with a wrench and a stomach full of regret. When the airlock cycled open, Cashin straightened, trying not to look like someone who just crawled out of an engine's digestive tract. The woman who stepped through the threshold didn't so much walk as glide, like a blade unsheathed from vacuum. She was tall, clad in angular battle armor that refracted the sterile lighting in cold fragments. Her skin was pale, not the pasty, fluorescent kind Cashin got from living in artificial light too long, but something almost metallic in its flawlessness. And her hair, bright yellow, was pulled back so tight it looked weaponized. What stopped him, though, were her ears, long, pointed, elegant, not quite elven, definitely not human, and her eyes. Twin cores of glowing blue, ringed with gold. They were calibrated, Cashin was sure, to assess threat levels, environmental variables, and emotional weaknesses in 0.3 seconds. "State your designation," she said. He blinked. Cashin Merrick. Station Tech, Class 5, not certified for surgical calibrations or interspecies flirting. She didn't smile. Of course not. Valari didn't smile unless it was to indicate successful orbital bombardment. "I require analysis of my ship's lateral stabilizer. It emitted an anomalous frequency upon descent. Possible sabotage or failure." "Sure," Cashin replied, already leading her toward the service corridor. "Could also be that the station's atmosphere is 2% too humid and your ship caught a cold." She paused. "Your humor confuses me." "Good," he said. "That means it's working." They entered the maintenance bay, a cluttered expanse of repurposed tech, caffeine stains, and things that probably violated space-time and at least 3 health codes. Cashin ducked under a conduit, motioning for her to follow. She didn't duck. The conduit adjusted. "You Valari sure do love your intimidating presence," he muttered, tapping into her ship's diagnostics. "Do they train you to make regular folks feel like mildly intelligent vegetables?" "I was bred for infiltration and command," she said. "My presence is optimized for dominance." "Ah," he said. "So you're basically a high-functioning existential crisis in armor." "Got it." Silence, and that statement is not entirely inaccurate. As he examined the interface, he felt her watching him. Not the way people watch technicians hoping for quick fixes, but like she was analyzing the way he existed. Her gaze was direct, intense, and disturbingly analytical. "Stop doing that," he said, not looking up. "Doing what?" "The staring. You're making my skin try to retire." "I'm observing. Humans possess unpredictable micro-expressions." "Yeah, and you're triggering all of mine at once." He looked up and met her eyes fully for the first time. Not a glance, not a side peek, but a full-on visual collision. They weren't just blue and gold. They were deep wide, like twin wormholes leading somewhere private and unspeakably distant. And for some reason, possibly a severe lapse in judgment, he said the first thing that came to his mind: "Your eyes are mesmerizing." She froze. Actually froze. Her breathing stopped. No exhale. No blinking. Just silence. Cashin immediately panicked. Professionally mesmerizing. Like top-tier military optics. I'm sure your threat assessment module is very proud." Nothing. Then her pupils expanded. Her nostrils flared. And her face, previously a portrait of calculated neutrality, flickered, just for a second, with something broken, not fragile, just interrupted, as if her programming stuttered. A nearby maintenance drone beeped a warning. Subject 1 experiencing respiratory delay. Suggest intervention. Are you okay? Cashin asked. Did I just violate a Valari cultural taboo? She inhaled sharply. No, I forgot to breathe. That's not a comforting sentence from someone who carries a plasma blade. She turned away slightly, as if she were recalibrating her dignity. This interaction is not proceeding according to expected behavioral parameters. Yeah, that tend to happen when someone calls your eyeballs gorgeous. She spun on him. I am not accustomed to aesthetic analysis. Well, you're doing great. Just breathe. Maybe sit. Or hover, if that's more your speed. I must depart. Sure, Cashin said, stepping back. I'll just go pretend this was a normal conversation, and not the start of an interspecies diplomatic incident. She moved to the exit, then paused, her fingers twitching like they wanted to type midair. Cashin Merrick. Yes. What else did you observe? He tilted his head. About you? Yes. He shrugged. Your voice sounds like static wrapped in silk. Your walk has subtext. And I'm pretty sure if you wanted to, you could bench press this entire station while reciting military poetry. She blinked. Cashin added, also, your ship stabilizer's fine. It just doesn't like the station's harmonic frequency. Kind of like how I don't like being stared at by women who forget to breathe when I compliment them. She walked out. He sat down. The maintenance drone floated over and asked, shall I delete the incident log? No, Cashin said, grinning faintly. Keep it. I want to remember the day I made a Valari warrior malfunction with a pickup line. The drone beeped in a way that sounded suspiciously like a snort. Underscore. Althea sat alone in the cramped quarters of her scout vessel, the cold hum of the life support system her only company. Her mind churned in a way it never had before, looping the words, your eyes are mesmerizing, like a strange melody that refused to fade. She scanned her mental logs, searching for an explanation. Such an emotional disturbance was unheard of in Valari history, but here it was uninvited and insistent. She attempted to analyze a phrase through the lens of Valari logic, mesmerizing, something that causes fixation or incapacitation. But that didn't explain why her breathing had faltered or why her chest felt like it was both tightening and expanding at once. The ship's AI, a utilitarian construct named Delta, offered no help beyond repeating its standard comforting phrase. Emotions are non-essential for mission success. Althea was not convinced. The next day on the station, she found herself orbiting the canteen, a place where scents collided in an alien symphony of spices, metal, and recycled air. She had observed humans from afar before, but never this close. Cashin Merrick was there, chatting with a group of technicians who wore grease stains like badges of honor. Althea's neural sensors detected heightened vocal patterns around him. Laughter, the kind that was contagious and reckless. Curiosity urged her forward. Cashin Merrick, she said, startling him as he lifted a half-eaten protein bar to his mouth. Althea, he said with a grin, back for more of my stellar charm? She folded her arms. I require clarification on your humor. Why do humans produce sounds that appear illogical in response to non-threatening stimuli? Cashin chuckled. Because sometimes the universe is so weird, you just gotta laugh or you'll start crying to your lunch. She blinked, uncomprehending. This is an inefficient emotional response. It might be, he admitted, but it beats a meltdown over a broken gravity vent. Speaking of, you up for seeing the worst repair job in the Outer Rim? I call it the Cashin Special. Althea tilted her head. Lead the way. As they walked through the maze of maintenance corridors, Cashin explained the quirks of the station's aging infrastructure. Here's where gravity flickers every other Tuesday. There's a loose plasma conduit that sings lullabies to stray rodents, and if you stand here, you'll get a static shock that feels like a space gremlin high-fiving you. Althea processed the information while cataloging the strange but oddly comforting sounds. Humans seem to find pleasure in these malfunctions. Exactly, Cashin said. We call it charm. It's like your obsession with clean lines and perfect armor. But instead of smooth surfaces, we embrace the chaos. They reached the vent. Cashin produced a toolkit that looked like it had seen more battles than some starships. As he worked, he told her stories, not of wars or conquests, but failed space pizzas, misfiring communication bots, and accidental zero-gravity dance parties. Althea found herself laughing, or at least producing the closest approximation. Your anecdotes are illogical but stimulating. Cashin paused, wiping sweat from his brow. See? I told you the Cashin special would grow on you. Later, they sat in the hydroponics bay, surrounded by synthetic plants humming softly under LED suns. Cashin offered Althea a small, jelly-like snack. Try this. Earth jelly bean. It's a sugary delight. The red ones might give you a mild buzz. She took it cautiously, chewing slowly. Unusual taste. Pleasant neurochemical interaction detected. Glad you like it. I once tried to teach a Valari soldier how to eat jelly beans. She nearly vaporized the entire snack bar. Althea smiled, a slow, deliberate curve of lips that felt strange but good. I did not know such simple pleasures existed. Cashin looked at her thoughtfully. Most of us don't realize it either until someone points them out, like how I noticed your eyes. Her gaze held his, steady and searching. That phrase continues to puzzle me. It is unlike anything I have heard. Cashin shrugged. Sometimes, it's just about seeing something beautiful and saying it out loud. No protocol. No strategy. Just honesty. Althea considered this. Honesty is a foreign concept in my culture. It is often masked or replaced by duty. Well, maybe it's time to try something new. She laughed again, a light sound that felt like breaking a code she didn't know she wanted to crack. Later, alone, Althea activated her personal AI and fed it the phrase, "Your eyes are mesmerizing." The AI responded with an error code, emotional data undefined. Delta, she said, update your database to include this. The AI beeped in reluctant acknowledgement. Althea stared out the viewport at the swirling cosmos. Somewhere between stars and stations, between codes and quirks, something was awakening, and it scared her more than any battle. Meanwhile, Cashin returned to his workshop, telling anyone who would listen about the day he calls a Valari warrior to forget to breathe. One coworker laughed so hard he nearly dropped a wrench, declaring, "You've officially entered the danger zone, buddy." Cashin grinned. "Yeah, but I think I'm ready for challenge." Underscore, 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 underscore. The days that followed were a strange dance of proximity and distance. Althea found herself drawn to the station's observation deck more often than protocol, or her pride, would allow. She would stand beside the viewport, watching the distant swirl of stars, pretending she was just monitoring cosmic traffic when really, she was waiting to see Cashin's familiar silhouette wandering by. Cashin, for his part, was more than happy to indulge in this strange new game. He even invented a code name for their awkward encounters, Operation Mesmerizing Eyes. One afternoon, while Cashin was calibrating a faulty neural relay on the docking bay's exterior, Althea appeared beside him, armor gleaming under the artificial sun. She looked at the tools in his hands, as if trying to decode their purpose through sheer will. "You know," Cashin said, "in a different life, I'd say your armor's a bit much for a casual visit." Althea regarded him with an expression that was part curiosity, part suspicion. "The armor is standard for my rank and duties." "Right," he replied, "but it also screams, I mean business, and will probably judge your spreadsheet skills." She paused. "Judgment is a tool for efficiency." "Yeah, but it's a heavy tool, like a plasma hammer." Althea attempted a smile, which looked more like a slight shift of her mandibles. "You humans have unusual metaphors." Cashin chuckled, adjusting a plasma filament. "And you Valari have unusual reactions to compliments." She glanced at him, a spark in her eyes that Cashin had come to recognize as curiosity mixed with something softer, more vulnerable. "So," he said, "how about we test your hypothesis on human humor and affection?" She raised an eyebrow, or what passed for one on her species. Cashin pulled a small device from his pocket. "This," he said, "is a holographic projector. I figured, why not show you some Earth humor? Stand-up comedy, zero-gravity style." "Proceed," she said, folding her arms. The projector flickered to life, displaying a hologram of a comedian in a neon-lit club on Earth, complaining about the absurdity of dating apps and anti-gravity yoga. The hologram's exaggerated gestures and awkward timing made Cashin laugh, and after a moment, even Althea allowed herself a quiet chuckle. It was a strange sound, alien yet genuine. After the show, Althea looked thoughtful. "The concept of humor as social bonding is more complex than I assumed." "Welcome to humanity," Cashin grinned, "where we use jokes to survive the apocalypse and avoid awkward silences." Their interaction was interrupted by a sudden alarm. The station's central AI, Omega, announced a system-wide power fluctuation. Lights flickered and gravity shifted momentarily, sending a few unsecured objects floating in slow arcs. Cashin cursed. "Great. The Cashin special strikes again." Althea moved swiftly, her training kicking in. Emergency protocols require immediate diagnostics. They hurried to Control Hub, where Cashin accessed the systems. "Looks like someone hacked the power grid, not a random glitch." Althea frowned. "Sabotage? By whom?" Cashin smirked. "If I knew, I'd probably buy them a drink, or avoid them forever." As they traced the intrusion, a voice echoed over the comms, sharp, cold, and dripping with sarcasm. Well, if it isn't Cashin Merrick, the station's favorite handyman and his mysterious Valari friend." Cashin groaned. "Great. The villain has a sense of humor, too." Althea narrowed her eyes. "Identify yourself." The voice laughed. "Name's Jax. I specialize in chaos and bad timing. Thought I'd spice things up a bit." Cashin rolled his eyes. "Another day, another villain." Althea studied the readouts. "Jax has breached multiple subsystems. He is toying with us." "Or testing our limits," Cashin said, eyes gleaming with mischief. "I say we give him a show." They worked together, Althea's precision and Cashin's ingenuity blending into a seamless counterattack. She marveled at his creative problem-solving, while he admired her calm under pressure. As the station stabilized, the lights returned to normal, gravity settled, and the alarm ceased. Cashin wiped his brow. "Well, that was fun. Want to do it again sometime." Althea tilted her head. "You find danger enjoyable?" "Only the parts where I don't die." She smiled, a small but meaningful curve. "I may consider that enjoyable as well." Later, Cashin found himself staring at the stars, thinking of Althea's laughter and the warmth that had begun to spread in places he didn't know could feel warmth. He realized that in a universe vast and cold, sometimes the most unexpected connections were the ones that lit up the darkest corners. Althea, meanwhile, processed the day's events. Somewhere between vulnerability and duty, humor and chaos, she had discovered something profound, an echo of what humans called love, and it terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. The morning arrived with a peculiar hum, as if the station itself was waking up from a restless dream. Althea stood by the viewport, her gaze fixed on the swirling nebulae beyond. Cashin's message blinked repeatedly on her comm, an invitation for breakfast in the galley. She hesitated only a moment before accepting, surprising herself with the warmth that spread in her chest. This was new, uncharted territory. In the galley, Cashin was already orchestrating a chaotic breakfast scene. Protein packs strewn across the counter, a malfunctioning replicator sputtering synthetic eggs. "Welcome to the Breakfast of Champions," he declared, flipping a jelly-like omelet that promptly folded itself into a puddle. Althea studied the mess. "Your culinary methods appear inefficient." It's part of the charm," Cashin said with a shrug. I like to keep the breakfast gods entertained. She frowned, trying to grasp the human concept of humor once more. Your humor remains elusive. Don't worry, it'll catch up to you, he said, handing her a steaming cup of something suspiciously brown. Try this. Earth coffee. It's bitter, chaotic, and addictive. She sipped cautiously. The bitter warmth was an assault on her Valari palate, but strangely invigorating. It is acceptable. Cashin grinned. Progress. Their laughter was interrupted by a sudden commotion outside. Alarms blared, and the station's AI Omega announced a breach in the cargo hold. Cashin and Althea exchanged glances and moved swiftly toward the source. Upon arrival, they found a group of smugglers attempting to bypass security. The leader, a wiry human with a nervous grin, spotted them. Hey, just doing a little inventory check. No harm meant. Cashin raised an eyebrow. Inventory check or unauthorized heist? The smuggler's grin faltered. Look, I'm just trying to make rent. You don't gotta be so hostile. Althea stepped forward, her tone icy but curious. Explain your presence. The smuggler swallowed. We're moving some experimental tech. Nothing that'll blow up the station, or anything. Cashin folded his arms. Experimental tech? On a station that already barely holds itself together? Althea's eyes narrowed. Details. The smuggler hesitated, then muttered, a prototype energy source. Supposed to be revolutionary, but unstable. Cashin smirked. Of course it's unstable. Nothing revolutionary ever plays by the rules. Althea considered the risk. You endanger many with your recklessness. The smuggler shrugged. Hey, sometimes you gotta take risks to survive. Just like you, right? The remark struck a chord. Althea realized survival was a shared experience, albeit approached differently. Suddenly, the cargo hold's lights flickered. The experimental tech pulsed erratically, emitting a low hum that vibrated through the floor. Cashin stepped back. Okay, that's definitely not supposed to happen. Althea activated her communicator. We must contain the energy source immediately. The smuggler panicked. It's gonna blow. Cashin grabbed a containment field generator from his belt. Relax, I've dealt with worse. Once got zapped by a quantum toaster. Still have all my limbs. Althea rolled her eyes but followed his lead. Together, they created a makeshift containment field, stabilizing the pulsing energy. The smuggler watched in awe. Cashin laughed, wiping sweat from his forehead. See? Told you I was good in a pinch. Althea smiled genuinely. Your methods are unconventional but effective. The smuggler nodded. Thanks for not arresting me. You guys are all right. Cashin shrugged. We have our moments. As they escorted the smugglers off the station, Althea reflected on the delicate balance of order and chaos that kept life humming here. It was messy, unpredictable, and alive. Later, Cashin teased. You know, for an alien warrior, you're surprisingly good at letting chaos slide. Althea smirked. I am learning from the best. Cashin's eyes sparkled. Then I guess I'm doing something right. They shared a look charged with unspoken understanding, a fragile thread weaving two very different worlds together. As night fell and stars blinked overhead, Althea allowed herself a thought she barely dared admit. Perhaps there was more to this human experience than logic and duty. Perhaps, amidst the laughter and chaos, something beautiful was beginning to bloom. The final day aboard the station arrived with an air of quiet expectancy, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Althea found herself standing again by the viewport, the endless cosmos stretching before her like an infinite question. Cashin appeared beside her, hands stuffed in his jacket pockets, wearing that easy grin that always managed to both annoy and comfort her. Last day before the shuttle leaves, he said. You ready for this grand adventure called saying goodbye without sounding like a soap opera? Althea regarded him. Goodbyes are logical. Yeah, well, humans have mastered the art of making the logical feel like a rock concert, loud, awkward, and with a lot of tears. She hesitated, the long ears twitching subtly. I have learned much about your species and myself. Cashin nodded. You've been through a lot. From not knowing what a compliment was to being a pro at sarcasm. Althea smirked. I am still working on sarcasm. It is a complex algorithm. Cashin laughed. Don't worry, you nailed it better than most. They shared a moment, the unspoken understanding weaving tightly between them. Suddenly, Omega's voice interrupted softly. Alert. Incoming transmission from Jax. Althea raised an eyebrow. Our charming antagonist returns. Cashin chuckled. I hope he's got better jokes this time. The transmission flickered on the screen. Jax's face, smeared with a mischievous grin, appeared. Well, if it isn't the dynamic duo. Thought I'd drop by before you leave. No hard feelings, right? Cashin rolled his eyes. Jax, if you're planning another sabotage, you're about 3 seconds late. Jax shrugged. Just wanted to say, you both surprised me. Althea, you're not just a pretty face with long ears. And Cashin, you're less annoying than usual. Althea folded her arms, hiding a smile. Your flattery is suspicious. Jax laughed. Fair enough. Maybe I'll leave you two alone for now. The transmission ended. Cashin shook his head. That guy, trouble follows us like a bad habit. Althea looked out at the stars again. Life is unpredictable, and so are connections. Cashin's gaze met hers. You taught me that even the coldest hearts can thaw. She considered her journey, from the moment a simple compliment threw her into confusion, to discovering laughter, danger, and something far more profound. Your eyes are mesmerizing, she whispered, echoing the words that started it all. Cashin smiled softly. And you forgot to breathe. She laughed, a sound that now felt natural and freeing. As the shuttle's engines hummed, ready to carry them to different paths, they stood side by side, no longer alien to each other's worlds. The universe was vast, but they had found a constellation of their own, a connection that transcended species, logic, and even the chaos of a quantum toaster incident. Until next time? Cashin asked. Althea nodded. Until next time. And with that, they faced a future. Uncertain, unpredictable, but filled with the promise of more moments that would make even the stars jealous.